You didn't even do the housework, you old hag! Get out of my house, you trash! The scene that greeted me when I returned from an overseas trip, taken for a change of scenery, was brutally heart-wrenching. My belongings were piled up like trash, and there was his affair partner, lounging in our home as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Such treatment was just too much, but I knew it was too late to turn back. Understood. With no tears left, I walked away from that room. Little did he know, all his past mistakes were about to come back to haunt him. My name is Mila. I'm 41. No kids, just living happily with my husband. My husband, Spencer, is 3 years older than me, and we met at an old job. I majored in design at a university with an arts program. Our university had a lot of connections with the entertainment industry, so through an acquaintance from my student days, I started working part-time as an assistant at a TV company. The pay was double that of other part-time jobs. Plus, I got to see the behind the scenes of well-known TV programs, which was incredibly exciting. I can't say it too loudly, but I've talked with many actors and actresses. Caught up in this exciting world, I continued working there after graduating. My design studies didn't come in much handy, but every day was busy and fresh. Unlike a regular job, I usually came home in the morning after work. I started sleeping in the mornings more than at nights. I managed to keep up with the pace in my youth, but there were limits to my energy. Around the age of 38, I began feeling increasingly down and couldn't shake off the tiredness. It felt like there was always a fog over my heart. I tried to keep up a cheerful front, but even faking a smile became hard. That's when my now husband, who was the first to notice something was off, stepped in. On a day when work ended early, he asked, "Want to grab a drink tonight? Been tough lately, Mila. Anything bothering you?" My pride made me say, "Nothing's wrong," even though that wasn't true. But as we drank, my true feelings slipped out. I should be enjoying my job, but it's just so hard. "You know, I really like your smile, Mila. It brightens up everything around. But it hurts me too, not seeing it." It was the first time anyone had said something like that to me. I started confiding in him more and more, and before I knew it, we were dating. His kindness became my comfort. Before turning 40, after discussing it with him, I quit my job at the TV company, and we got married. He supported me in deciding when to leave that hectic job. He's truly a dependable husband. As we started our life together, I wanted to pursue what I really loved, so I looked for work. He said, "I've got your back, Mila." Now, I'm a full-time remote illustrator. I plan website layouts, design posters, and other advertising materials. Many clients I met through my old job like my designs, and I've been getting a lot of requests lately. I'm making a stable income, which is really satisfying. But I'm careful not to overdo it and look after my health. However, about a year into our marriage, as my work prospered, my husband's attitude began to change. "Hey, how long are you planning to not work? You're better now, so get a job already." "But I told you before, I'm working full-time remotely in design." "Was that so? But remote work? That's just taking it easy, right?" At first, my husband was kind, but he started to become harsh towards me. He still works as a TV staff member, so his return times and work hours are irregular. In contrast, I had set my own working hours, so unless there were remote meetings or urgent calls, the rest was up to me. Naturally, the lifestyle gap between my husband and me widened. I think my husband was jealous of me always being home. Whenever I talked about work, he'd laugh it off mockingly. Lately, work's been going really well. Yeah, no need to pretend." "What do you mean?" "You're not really working, are you? Just lazing around at home all day." "Here I am working so hard." He'd always make such sarcastic comments, All I wanted was a normal conversation. It's not a lie. I mean, I'm earning so I can support myself. We'll see about that. Oh, right. You're getting money from your parents, right? Your family's rich after all. Must be nice. That's the kind of thing he'd end up saying. Gradually, we stopped talking altogether. Of course, I'm grateful to my husband. If he hadn't reached out to me back then, I wouldn't be where I am now. I owe my livelihood to him. But being told such things every day, it's enough to make anyone dislike him. To avoid hating my husband any further, I began distancing myself. We stopped seeing each other's faces and talking. Since we didn't communicate at all, the last call from my husband on my mobile phone was from 2 months ago. As time passed, he rarely returned home. Thinking this couldn't go on, I struggled with how to approach him, now so aggressive. After much thought, I decided to be honest and texted him. How about we have dinner together tonight? His reply was indifferent. Sure, whatever. But inside, I was happy about our first meal together in a long time. I decided to cook with enthusiasm. I'd rarely cooked for him before. Only a few times when we just started dating, maybe on occasional holidays. Given his job, he often had dinner at work, and with his unpredictable return times, it seemed pointless to cook. A meal together after so long, and a home-cooked meal at that. So today, I was determined to make something delicious. I cook with all my heart, something I actually enjoyed lately, being home all the time. I'd gotten used to preparing all 3 meals. I'd become quite skilled at cooking without realizing it. Tonight's menu was beef stew as the main dish, with a few side dishes. Beef stew was his favorite. Seeing the trash, it seemed he'd been eating a lot of greasy junk food lately, so I thought something warm and soothing would be nice, and chose this menu. I set the table and waited for my husband's return. Just then, my mobile phone rang. It was my husband. What's up? I can't make it back tonight. What? His abrupt words weren't what I expected. I was speechless. Some urgent work came up, so I can make it. But dinner? Just eat it yourself. His tone grew harsher, like a rubbing salt into my wounded heart. And you know what? It really ticks me off seeing you always at home. After being told that, I searched for a response, but he unilaterally hung up with a, "Then, bye." After all the courage it took to invite him to dinner, I felt like my feelings were being trampled on, and it became hard to breathe. That night, I ate the meal I cooked alone, but I don't remember the taste because I couldn't stop crying. Since then, his words stuck in my head, and I couldn't concentrate on work. No matter what I did, I couldn't feel happy. During this time, after a meeting with Garcia, who I work with, a conversation came up. Garcia, did you get a tan? Yes, actually I went on a trip recently. Oh, with friends? No, solo travel. I casually asked, as I could see Garcia's sunburned skin even through the screen. She apparently enjoys solo travel and often goes on trips, both domestic and international. It's great, you know, it feels liberating from everyday life, plus I don't have to worry about anyone else. That made me think maybe she's right. And then I decided. I'm going on a trip starting today. I'll be back in 3 nights and 4 days. A few days later, I texted my husband. Yes, I decided to take my first ever solo trip. Though it's brief, my husband would have the house to himself, and putting physical distance might be important. I wanted to refresh my feelings. It's nice that my work can be done anywhere with just a laptop. I finished most of my work before leaving, taking my laptop only for emergencies. Taking a trip, huh? Must be nice. Well, leave the house to me. That was his reply. Reading it made me feel down again. No, I'll focus on myself during the trip. I switched my mood and boarded the plane. After a few hours of flying, I arrived at my destination. The unfamiliar, foreign atmosphere was exhilarating. The blazing sun and gentle climate lifted my spirits. Even the wind in the heat felt pleasant. And of course, many places had English menus in service, so communication wasn't much of a worry. For 3 nights and 4 days, I went to the beach and shopped at leisure. Lying on the beach, watching the sunset was the best part of my trip. If you ask what I did, well, nothing special. But those simple moments were enjoyable. Time flew by, and soon I was back home, arriving around 8 p.m. As the next day was garbage collection day, I went to throw away some stuff I forgot to discard at the airport. Turning on the light, I saw a pile of trash. I wondered if someone was moving out. But then I noticed something familiar in a trash bag. Is that? It was my cherished stuffed animals and knickknacks. Looking closer, all the trash bags around were filled with my belongings. What was going on? I hurried home and opened the front door. Entering quickly, I saw my husband lounging on the sofa with a young woman next to him. "Hey, you should have told me you were coming back." Seeing me, the first thing my husband said was this. I had already guessed from the sound of a woman's voice at the entrance, but seeing them sitting together made me shiver. "I told you I'll be back today, didn't I? And why are my belongings in the trash?" Looking around the house, it was clear that my things had been thrown away. I confronted him directly. "Ah, you saw that, huh?" my husband said, scratching his head in annoyance. Seeing his attitude, my anger was about to reach its limit. "Well, it's all useless, right? This isn't your home anymore." "What?" I didn't understand. This was our home, where we lived together since getting married. There's no way it wasn't my home. Then my husband said something shocking. "I'm divorcing a woman who doesn't do housework. Get out of my house, you trash." I was so stunned by his words that my mind went blank. "Well, that's how it is. You leave your husband to go on a leisurely trip? Stop taking things for granted." The woman sitting next to him looked at me awkwardly. I couldn't even hear the words being thrown at me anymore. It was as if it was all my fault. Sure, there were times when my mental state was unstable, and I depended a lot on my husband from quitting my previous job until my current work stabilized. I'm more than grateful for that. But I did my share, handling the housework while he was busy with work, even helping with his paperwork. This treatment was just too much. But my husband turned his back on me as if he had nothing more to say, again focusing on the TV. He put his arm around the woman next to him, cuddling close. In front of that scene, I couldn't even cry. I had reached my limit. "Understood." With that single word, I left the house. It was night, so I felt bad but called my parents for a ride. Thanks to them coming by car, I could retrieve my belongings left at the garbage area. I was so grateful my parents' house was nearby. Mom, who came to pick me up, and Dad, who was getting ready to sleep at home, didn't ask what happened. I mean, they probably guessed from the situation when I called them at night with bags full of my things. I couldn't sleep at all that night. Lying under the familiar smell of my childhood home's white ceiling, I was contemplating something. It was the biggest strategy of my life. The next morning, I started working on what I had thought of the night before. Make phone calls to various places. I made dozens of phone calls throughout the day. By evening, I was ready for a break and was sipping on iced tea I bought on my trip when my phone rang, just as I expected. "What the hell is this? What are you thinking?" "What do you mean? What am I thinking?" "Don't play dumb. What's this about our house contract ending?" When I answered, his shouting was so loud, it echoed through the speaker. I knew exactly what he was talking about, but pretended not to. "Oh, I asked for the contract to be terminated. They said it could be done by the end of this month if we hurry." "What? You can just do that." "No, it can be done." The house we lived in was a rental condo we rented together. Moreover, unknown to my husband, the actual owner was my dad. I thought he might not like it if he knew my dad owned the condo, so I pretended it belonged to a friend. Never thought it would come in handy like this. But, I'm the named tenant. You can't just do that without the tenant's consent." "What? What are you talking about? You're the one who made me change it to my name and pay the rent. Oh, he let out a foolish sound. Originally, the house was in my husband's name and he paid the rent. Initially, I was unemployed and didn't have financial freedom, so we did it that way. But when I started earning through remote work, he told me, then you pay the rent. He doesn't even remember that for the past 3 or 4 months, I have been the one paying. How oblivious can he be? You kept saying it's your house, but that house is truly mine in the real sense. When I said that, my husband let out a yell, as if trying to intimidate me. I've always wanted to do this to him. You really paid it yourself? Of course. I am earning at least $30,000 a month. $30,000? His confused mother was met with my firm response. Then he let out a sound of astonishment. Come to think of it, I never told him my income, thinking he might get jealous. Well, it's good that I've been paying the rent, considering I'll need the money soon. I added that casually. Need money? What do you mean? You know what I'm talking about, right? Compensation for 3 people. Oh, he finally let out a sound of defeat. In fact, my husband was having affairs with 2 other women besides me. I recognized the woman at our house. Last night, I desperately tried to remember the past. I had worked with her a few times. She was a young model at an entertainment agency, still unknown but beautiful. Using my TV industry contacts, I contacted her, only to find out she believed she had broken up with me and was already engaged to him. But she revealed something I never expected. She told me a story that I had never imagined. She suspected there was another woman. When I asked her about this woman and contacted her, it turned out she was also in a relationship with my husband. Moreover, she too believed they were engaged. She was a young, up-and-coming talent. So my husband had relations with me, the model and the talent, and he was practically engaged to 2 of them. When I found this out, I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. More horrifyingly, the engagement rings he gave each of us were probably recycled, because the engagement ring I had kept in our room had disappeared. And when I asked both women about their rings, they described the same one I had. Knowing this, both the women he had affairs with were understandably shocked and dismayed. A strange solidarity formed among the 3 of us, and we agreed that demanding compensation was fair. If you hadn't pretended to be engaged, I would have been the only one demanding compensation. This is what happens when you put on airs like that. That's... His voice, sounding defeated, was quite amusing to hear. I felt sorry for him, but it was all his own doing. Please, I beg you, I'll cut ties with the other women. Just don't leave me, Mila. If you leave me, I won't be able to recover. My husband pleaded with a voice louder than ever. Even now, his attempts to save himself are just revolting. After toying with my feelings to this extent, it's unbelievable he can say such things. I am grateful to you. If you are, then thank you for setting me free. From now on, I won't be seeing you ever again. Goodbye. I heard a faint, wait a minute, but I didn't care and ended the call. Since my husband never listened to me, I felt justified in returning the favor. He kept calling persistently afterward, so I blocked his number and ignored him completely. Ultimately, my husband fell into the hell of paying compensations of his actions. Later, through a lawyer, I managed to get a divorce. The other women, who were his affair partners, apparently broke off their engagements too. That was expected. The house lease was successfully terminated, and I made sure he moved out quickly. I had a moving company retrieve my belongings, so that was a relief. However, my husband tried to contact me through text, WhatsApp, and various other methods, so I canceled my mobile phone service. That cut off all ties with him. I later heard that he became a person of caution among many production companies and agencies, forcing him to quit his job at the TV company. Now, I can laugh and say he was truly a hopeless case. As for me, I'm now living abroad. I'm currently dating an Italian man. Ever since that trip, Solo travel abroad became my hobby, and I took trips whenever I could. On one such trip to Italy, I met my current boyfriend, who approached me. Considering my past experience, I'm being cautious about marriage, but I'm slowly closing the distance between us. Work is going well, and I'm enjoying love anew.